Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. This is Kenny from Todd Tutoring, continuing on the 2022-2023 ACT prep for the math questions. Here we're going to continue on from 11 to 20, going through those same four kind of steps we talk about. Remember, just for a quick overview is 1, what are they asking? 2, what info do they provide? 3, do the math. And then 4, does it make sense? So using this framework, if you want more information, you can check out one of my previous videos. But using this framework, we're going to go through 11 to 20 and rock through this practice exam. So let's do it. So first, going through 11, a bag of marbles contains 8 red marbles, 9 yellow marbles, and 7 green marbles. How many additional red marbles must be added to the 24 marbles already in the bag is the probability of drawing a red marble is 3/5. So this is a very classic ACT problem, dealing with probability of changing counting your denominator and changing probabilities. But let's deal with this first. What are they asking? They're asking how many additional red marbles must be added to the 24 to change the probability to 3/5. So the information we got so far here is that there are 8 red marbles, 9 yellow marbles, and 7 green marbles. So right now we would have 8 over 24, which is 1/3, but we want to change it to be 3/5. Now, I think the biggest thing here is to really understand that you want to change the top and the bottom number. So we don't know that number. Let's call it X, number of red marbles we're going to add. Red marbles to add. And so we're going to write it is 8 plus X over 24 plus X, right? And we want it to equal 3/5. And what you notice here is that I have set up a proportion so that I can equal 3/5. Now we could cross multiply, and I'll show you that in a second, or you can kind of just guesstimate, right? What would get me to 3/5 the quickest? And what I would see here is saying, okay, I would probably need this to be a denominator of 5 to get to X to equal 10. And so kind of an initial instinct here is to really say, 16 would get me to 40. And so plugging that in, you would get 24 out of 40, and that would reduce down to 3 out of 5, which would be correct. But we want to do the faster way. So that's just instinctual. But if you want to do it the mathematical way, cross multiply here. Make sure you notice that there are parentheses that you need to add. So 5 times 8 plus X is equal to 3 times 24 plus X. Distribute 5 times 8, 5 times X, 3 times 24, 3 times X. Here you get 40 plus 5X is equal to 72 plus 3X. Subtract X on both sides. It's 3X. We get 2X, just rearranging quickly, equals 72 minus 40 on both sides. 2X is equal to 32. Divide by 2, X is equal to 16. Boom. Well, so like I said, that was just kind of a more instinctual route because you know that the 5 is probably going to simplify to 3/5. But checking out this, 16 makes sense to get it here because this would be 1/3 and this is more than a half. So you probably need to add a bit of marbles to get there. Perfect. Moving on to 12, again, another very prominent ACT problem we got here. And it says in the standard XY coordinate plane, the point 211 is the midpoint of CD. C has the coordinates of 6, 8. What are the coordinates of D? So a lot of times you'll see this question saying, give me the other point. If I have 2 points at this midpoint, sometimes it gives you midpoint and the end points. If it gives you 2 of the end points, you want to be able to go with all of them. So what information to give you? They give me the point here. C has coordinates of 6, 8. And then they say the midpoint is 2, 1. So you have the midpoint here. So you have 1 endpoint. So this is an endpoint here. You don't know the other, but you have a midpoint. So from here, okay, that means I just need to find the other midpoint. We know the midpoint formula. So quick refresher. It's x1, just the average of the 2 points. That's how I remember it the most easiest. So add them up, divide by 2. Add the 2 y points, divide by 2. And then I'm just going to fill in what I know. And so I know one of them. So it's like 6 plus one of the other ones over 2, comma 8 plus the other y coordinate over 2. And this should be equal to 2, comma 1. Sorry for this small 2. So here you can set each one up to equal it, or you can kind of do a little bit of mental math here just to make it up a little bit quicker. So over 2. For example, I said this is equal to 2. What divided by 2 is equal to 2? That'd be 4. So that means this up here has to equal 4. That means this one should be negative 2. So that means x2 equals negative 2. If you solve, you can solve for that if you don't believe me. And then for the y-coordinates, that slashes all these. Y-coordinate, we want to say x plus y2 is equal to 1. So over here you have, running out of space a little bit, 2 over 2 is equal to 1. And so what divided by 2 equals 1? That'd be 2. So that means the numerator has to equal 2. You literally just multiply it out. A plus y2 equals 2. Subtract 8 on both sides, you should get negative 6. And well, yes, that makes sense because those 2 points would get that middle point, so you're expecting it kind of be in that negative quadrant. You can draw it off as well. I think for doing number 12, this algebraic way would be the quickest. All right. Moving on to 13. At his job, the first 40 hours each week that Thomas worked is regular time, so very standard, and any additional time is paid as overtime. Thomas gets paid 15 per hour in regular time. During overtime time, Thomas gets paid 1.5 as much. That's important to note. And he gets paid during his regular time. And so Thomas works 46 hours in week 1 and gets a $117 deduction taken out of his pay this week. After the deduction taken out, how much does he pay remains this week? So a lot of information. Let's figure out, what are they asking us? How much does he get paid after deduction? So what's his paycheck, really? Simply put, so what's the paycheck? We all want to know that question, right? And so we want to calculate that. Notice there's something regular time and overtime. If he works 46 hours in a standard working week, if you ever have had a job in high school, you definitely know what it's like to get paid overtime. It's very nice when you work on the holidays. So breaking this apart, you have the 40 normal regular time hours, and then you have 6 additional hours. So this is 40 times the 15 per hour. And then here, this is 1.5 times. So we have to take 15 times 1.5, which gets me $22.5 an hour. So if I'm going to calculate the total, I'm going to change it to green. It's going to equal to 15 times 40 plus the 6 times 22.5 minus the $117. So you need to calculate it here, kind of quickly doing the mental math. You would know that 40 times 15 is 600. And then here, I'm actually gonna have to use a calculator because the decimals usually mess me up. And that's a big recommendation I also say when taking the test. If you don't know the answer, just use the calculator. Just make sure you type in the right thing, because that'll be the biggest thing that people get wrong. So here, 600 plus 135 minus 117. Type that all in the calculator, you should get 618. And that makes sense to me. That would make sense because the 117 is quite a big chunk, but you would want to consider that the $117 deduction probably wouldn't go over his regular time. So 492 seems a bit much, and this seems way too much for the 46 hours that he works. Perfect. Moving on, 14. At Sweet Stuff, fresh produce, the price of the bag of grapes depends on the total number of bags purchased at one time, as shown in the table below. So something you probably really see, you buy more, get a cheaper price. In 2 trips to Sweet Stuff this week, Janelle purchased 3 bags of grapes on Monday and 4 bags of grapes on Wednesday. How much money would Janelle have saved if she had purchased 7 bags of grapes in 1 trip on Monday? Okay, so the main question I'm asking is how much she would save if she just bought the regular 7 bags. So let's do it. And then she has this one other condition. So let's figure out how much she would pay if she bought 7 bags. So if she bought 7 bags from the table, 7 times 2 is 60. And so we use that calculator here. 7 times 2 is 60. Calculator, find that. And that's $18.20. And then you want to find the other scenario. So 2 trips, she did 3 bags plus the 4 bags. So the 3 bags would be 3 times the $3 per bag plus the 4 times the 280. So that would get me $9 plus 33. Oh, I didn't see. See, that's happens when you mistype. 4 times 2.8. $11.12. 20 cents. 20 cents. Sorry, which gets me $21.20. So the difference is how much you save is the difference between the two. Remember, don't just stop there. You want to find the difference. And so you have 21.2 minus 18.2, which would be $3. Now here, you can see here, now I don't see my answer. So this is a very common thing that happens. And if you don't, just calm down and see, okay, where would I have miscalculated the math? So here I would just check. Let's see, I probably did miscalculation here. It's 4 times 280. That'd be 11.2. And see here, I miscalculated here. That'd be 20.2. So now that is this, 20.20 minus 18.20, which is a flat $2. That makes relatively sense in that case, right? Because when you're thinking about a difference, there shouldn't be too much. It's a little bit enticing, but it's not like they would lose a lot of profit. So I think 14, what I just did there is very indicative of what might happen to you if you take an example like this. You get it all done, you pretty much do all the right math, but you look at the question and there's no answer there. So rather than just like panicking and being scared that you don't see anything, I think the big thing is just to take a deep breath, say, hey, what's going on? And you probably 9 times out of 10 had a miscalculation like I did, and just go back to your work. Because if you trust yourself that you did something correctly, just probably fine comb it and see if you miswrote a number or you just calculated something mental math. And that way, I think like about 8 to 9 times out of 10, you'll see the answer pop up right away. All right. Then this question, what is 3% of 4.14 times 10 to the 4th? Now, this question is very straightforward. I think you just have to understand what the percent means. You can just convert it to a decimal, right? If you have 50% of something, that's the same thing as saying 0.5 times a number, right? So you just have to take this and convert it to a decimal. 3% would be 0.03, and then just multiply it by the quantity you're given. Just plug that in your calculator. Do that, so 0.03 times 4.14 times 10 to the 4th. Your calculation spit out 1242, and that makes sense to me. You can also know that like you can also do 3 times 4.14 and then times 10 to 2, but calculate, make your life easy, and you'll be in great shape. All right. What value of x satisfies this equation? In other words, I've just put this is solve for x, and this is just, and the information they give you is just an equation. So it's just like algebra class, solve the equation, and you'll be all right. So here, I don't want to rewrite this. So we can just distribute sides, make sure to carry the negative in that first one. So it's negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12x. Negative 3 times negative 5, so we get plus 15. 2 times 1 is what you mean. So it's equal to 2. 2 times negative 5x, we get minus 10x. Add 10x to both sides. Get negative 2x plus 15 equals 2. Subtract 15. I get negative 2x is equal to negative 13. And then from there, we want to divide it by negative 2. And we get x is equal to 13 halves. Sounds reasonable to me. Now, one thing you could have checked the mental math and you could plug it back in. I'd recommend, because these problems you only have a minute per problem, to move faster and just to go through it. And maybe you want to put a little star and say, okay, this is a very easy problem. Just you could double check and put it in and see if it equals. But I'm confident what I did here is correct. So I would just leave it be. Alrighty, a few more problems left. Verse 17. In the right triangle, ABC shown below, the given lengths are millimeters. What is sine A? So this is the they're just asking what is sine A, they give you the right triangle. Immediately your head should go to so ka toa. This has saved me so many times, this acronym. Sine is equal to, sine A is equal to the opposite of A over hypotenuse of A. So here's, and remember, always refer to the angle. So the opposite is the opposite one. So that'd be 7. Hypotenuse is along the side or crossing the 90. So sine A would just be 7 over 9. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Got a problem, right? 18. Basically asks you what this could solve for. You could go into the major depths of going to calculator and fractions, but that takes way too much time. Instead, for this problem, I really just, you would want to understand what happened for these exponent rules. And so this is just a refresher, but with a negative, remember, it flips the fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this and read it as 6/4, or 64 over 27. Now it makes it positive. Remember, the 2 in the numerator, the other fraction is the normal power. And then the denominator is really just a radical. So this would be the root right here. So really that's just takes a cube root. So I can rewrite this as the cube root of 64 over the cube root of 27. Also, just for the sake of completion, you can write it like this over 27. And then I rewrite it this because you can, for me, I can recognize 64 and 27 as cube numbers. So I definitely say kind of brush up on cube numbers, square numbers, help you there. And still to the power of 2 now. Cube root of 64 is 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. And then cube root of 27 is 3. Then you have that squared. 4 squared is 16. And 3 squared is 4/3 times 4/3. So 16 over 9. Things here. Exponents will never be negative unless your inside number is negative. So F is wrong, G is wrong. And from here, it's just kind of seeing which one is right. And that sounds about right. All right, 19. Lotto begins on his back door and walks 8 yards east, 6 yards north, 12 yards east, 5 yards north to the barn door. But how many yards less would he walk if he walked directly? So if you're doing directly, think about if you're walking to school, you're walking a path. Yeah, you could go into the sidewalk here and walk here to get to here, right? Or you could just cut the field, right? And if you recognize what you're doing here is you're making a right triangle. And the thing you're finding is the hypotenuse. So drawing in his situation, if I'm drawing Lotto, I would say his barn door is just here, like 0, 0. If he walks 8 yards east, that's 8. 6 yards north, so 6. And then 12 yards east, 12, and then 5 more yards. Really, I can construct this as one triangle with the length here to here as 8 plus 12, which gets me 20. And then up here, 5 plus 6, which gets me 11. So I have this right triangle, I want to find this hypotenuse. So how we do that? Pythag, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is 20 squared plus 11 squared is equal to c squared. And you get 400 plus 121 is equal to c squared. So c is equal to square root of 521. Type that in the calculator. And you get about 22.8, which is approximately 23. And that makes sense. It should be longer than 20 and 11. So these two should be wrong in that case. All right, so thank you for sticking with me if you've gone all this way here. I hope this has been very informative and helpful. If there's anything I can do, just please let me know and I can have another, really go through one question, go through it in depth, make it go through it faster, whatever you guys need. So for this last question, for a given set of data, the standard score z corresponding to the raw score of x is given by z is equal to x minus mu over sigma, where mu is the mean of the set, sigma is the standard deviation. If the standard score is equal to mu equals 78, sigma equals 6, which of the following raw score of x corresponds to z equals 2? So lots of words. But this is really standard AP not chemistry, probability statistics problem. But you don't need to know any of it because they don't expect you. And the biggest thing here is if there's something out of your purview, they will give you the formula and all you do is got to plug it in. So if you want to know what the value of x is when z is equal to 2, but they give you a lot of formulas. They give you this formula. They tell you this mu, it's called mu, this mini u thing is equal to 78, this sigma is equal to 6. So I'm just going to plug it in and see what happens. So z is equal to 2. X I don't know. Mu I know is 78. Sigma is 6. From here, I just got to solve economic equation. So 6 times multiplied by 6. We're out of room, so I'm going to put it up here. That's equal to 12 is equal to x minus 78. Add 78 to both sides. You get x is equal to 90. Right? Careful, you might miss math. You might get h, but 90 is the right answer. And from a statistical standpoint, that makes sense. If you didn't understand it, because they should be higher by standard deviation at bell curve, but on that, don't worry about it. If you understood statistics, all you would have to do is 2 times 6, but you can see that you didn't need to, you just had to plug in the answer. So that is the questions from 11 to 20. I hope you found that helpful. If there's anything that I need to add more, please let me know. And with that, I hope you keep on grinding, keep on studying, and take care. This is a bit rough.